Welcome to Tuesday at Two Lines. This is Marty McFly. That's funny. Hope you guys are having a great Tuesday. Hopefully you've kicked off the week well. Take a quick look. Looks like DNA, the Fingers, John Albright all jumped in early. Pistol Pete could be a summer blockbuster. Marty needs a clock tower on the layout to power the track. There you go, DK Moon. It's good stuff. Hey, Gary Dunmore. Welcome. Gary, John Albright, you got me dying laughing. Marty McFly. Chris, how's it going? John Tucci, welcome. For those of you who don't know, understand the Marty McFly references, that was my nickname, I guess, last night during George's live stream. So, but welcome. Hey, Eric. Hey, Dave Patterson. Good to have you. Hey, B2. Good evening, guys. Gene is in the house. Slot Journal is here, anticipating McFly's arrival. I figured you guys would like my picture. Dave Patterson spoke to Lynn at LEB today about polycar lane changers, $150 per piece for the first run in May. She is hoping they come down for the next release in the summer. Only work with oxygen at this point. Yeah, I saw that they'd posted those. Polycar did. Hey, Dojo. Welcome. Good to have you. Thanks for joining tonight. Hey, George. What's up? Missing the hair gel in that picture. That's funny. Hey, Don Young. Haggison, welcome. Good to have you guys. Thanks for joining tonight, man. I really appreciate that. Also, Mauricio says pit lanes are coming, but Lynn is not able to order yet. Yeah, I think it's going to be a while before that polycar digital stuff is readily available. I mean, we already have problems with getting polycar track here, or just the regular track. I do see that 132slotcar.us has the 4-lane kits, and yeah, I would love to try that track out. I've thought about ordering that set. It's $500. So, and I already have a track. We've already invested a lot into the Carrera, so to change would be kind of crazy. And George is waiting for the next polycar F1 release. Chris has got his snack and his pop. He's ready to go. Guys, thanks, man. Appreciate it. Eric, oh crap, he's 1 minute early. Hey, beats last week when I was an hour late. Dusty finally made it. Welcome. Dusty is out enjoying some racing. Got rained out today, though. Hey, Brandon. Good to have you. Hey, Les. So what do we have to talk about tonight, guys? Hey, Slot R. Dogtown. Good evening. Good to have you. Slot R is in the house. Good evening. I know it's late for you guys. Rocky View Raceways. Hey, Doug. Man, lots of people in the chat already this morning. This evening. Lindsay. Hey, Lindsay. Hey, Slot Car League of Champions. The Fingers. Hey, Code. Nobody's home. Hey, Bob. Happy Tuesday. Thanks for joining. Good to have you. Hey, Nick V. Man, there's hey, Gurr Bear. Guys, thanks for joining in. Hey, Jamie. Long time. Hope you're doing well, bro. Hopefully get a chance to race soon. Scale RC and Slot Cars. Hey, Harry. Thanks for joining. I know it's late. Man, I've already caught up on the chat, guys. What about that? So what do we talk about tonight? I mean, so let's break down a couple of things. It was really cool to watch the footage that was coming in from the UK Slot Festival. You had Massimo, you had Raul, you had Nico, you had Rob Sale, you had Rob from Swift Slots, you had Slot R. Dave was kind of feeding us information. It was just really cool to see, and it's a shame that we don't have something like that here in the States. I mean, I think we do on small scales, like the Cleveland Slot Car Show is starting to really get some traction and is growing. But, it's no matter where you host it in the United States, I mean, I think it's tough to get a giant crowd, and it was cool to see Scale Auto there. It was cool to see Slot It was there, and Policar. A lot of the test tracks were up. It was really good to see. I mean, who else was there? But like you would think, listen, I worked in an industry for a while where we did a lot of trade shows. I had a piece of software that we would go to probably 6 or 8 trade shows a year that really made sense to us. And they were expensive. We dropped quite a bit of money between, by the time you pay for hotels, you pay for booth space. A lot of these were union places, so that you had to pay, the union at the trade show, the convention centers. And so you had to pay for union labor. They, basically would set up and tear down most of your stuff if you needed it. Yeah, it was pretty expensive, but it's a shame that you have Carrera that's close, SCX. You have all these slot companies that could have been there. The UK was probably a fairly easy trip for them to get to, and it's just too bad. But awesome that the UK Slot Fest is growing. It was great to see a bunch of those YouTubers, those guys get to hang out and get to meet each other in person. I'll just be honest with you. I was a little jealous of that because that's one of the things that, we've been doing this around 2 years, and I've met a lot of people through the live chat, through the stream, through the channel, being a part of, other collaborations, and you build relationships with these guys and you get to know them and you become friends. And, but we've never, had a chance to meet up and have a chance to hang out and, grab dinner together. And so when we were seeing those kind of pictures and those videos, that was fun to see. So I'm happy for you guys that made the trip over there. Who knows, maybe next year, we'll figure out a way to get over there. My wife just doesn't quite understand my slot car channel, my YouTube channel. And so talking her into, like, hey, let's take a trip to the UK. It's not that easy. And it'd be a pretty expensive trip, but it would be a lot of fun to get a chance to see a bunch of guys that do the same thing that we all do, and get to see all these companies that support the slot car hobby, and get a chance to support them, and get to take a look at prototype cars, and get a chance to create some content for the channel, by interviewing some of these people and talking about what's coming up. And I'm not a news channel. I don't pretend to be a news channel. I don't jump on the bandwagon and invite every time something new. I don't immediately post a video about it, but it is fun to see the new things that are coming. So that's a lot of fun. So anything, don't forget, if you have a question, throw a cue up in front of it. Sporting the 2 Lines shirt, a bit late, but ready to participate. Hey, John. I hope you liked my channel graphics for today. So what else have we got? I'm back. Sorry, just setting tomorrow's video to export. Yeah, Dave, that's cool. I can't wait. I'm hoping that tomorrow's video is kind of your point of view of the UK Slot Festival. Um, but yeah, it looked like everybody had a great time. It was very cool to see all the new things. And with that, there's a lot of things to talk about tonight. That came out of the slot festival that are pretty exciting. Hey, Steve, what's up, bro? Hope you're doing well. Good to have you. Hey, Jim Rose, probably about 10K or more for a company to attend. Yeah, Jim, you're right. It's not cheap. We probably, we when I was going to trade shows, we were on a skeleton crew and worked our tails off, long hours. Had a lot of fun in the industry that we were in. But yeah, I mean, we could go on the cheap and probably get a show done for $5,000 or $6,000. But as soon as we had to, if we couldn't drive to the show, yeah, you add a couple $1,000s to the trip. So it does get expensive, and I understand why they don't participate. But I doubt that any of those companies would show up if we did something in the States that was sizable. If there was some kind of East Coast or West Coast or Midwest slot car festival, where you can, 10 or 12 hour drive to draw to and make it worth people's trip, right? I mean, that's the thing, is having enough vendors there representing all the brands so that people can buy cars, sell cars, trade cars, having the vendor space, having some tracks set up. And I think that the UK Slot Festival is doing it right, and they are probably going to continue to grow each year. But it would be cool to see somebody here in the States jump on that. And we've heard Dave Kennedy talk about how Carrera used to do that, and that's what he did was put on, go to all these trade shows and toy fairs and things like that, to help promote, the hobby. Really, it was, promoting the company, but in turn promoting the hobby, because a lot of times you go to a trade show and people don't even know what slot cars are. So then you're, opening people's eyes to something that might be fun that down the road they jump in. Yeah, Dave says he met all sorts of people he didn't expect to. Yeah, it was kind of cool to see. I mean, there was a shot there with, everybody that had joined in and grabbed dinner together. There may have been a couple people that were over there that got left out, but that happens. It's unfortunate. Hey, Michael Squire. Hopefully you're doing well. Hey, Dahi. But yeah, it was good to get, hear the new news. One of the big things was, Scale Auto and all the things that they have going on. It's crazy. If you look at their catalog for 2024, I mean, we could spend an hour and a half talking about the cars and the scenery that they're planning to release. It's crazy. And so everybody got a chance to, take a look at that, some of that stuff that was really, really cool. Some of the 124 scale slot cars that they're releasing are really, really cool. There's possibly a new Marty Two Lions Fly special car coming out. That'd be great. I would love to. It would be fun to do your own car. I mean, I know Travis did that with the HO with Bauer. But it would be fun to probably do something more like what Great Traditions does, working with SCX and the CUDAs. It would be fun to design and build a car. That would be fun. Do you have a diagram of your track? Harry, I do have a diagram of my track. Give me just a second here. I've got to find it, but I do have let's see. My present layout is this it? No, that's not it. 2 lines, 4 lane. I've got so many 4 lane final version. Yep, here we go. So I'm going to put the link to it. It's to Softy Royal is what I design in. And there is my layout, Harry. So there you go. It is in the chat. Area 51, New York Toy Show is where they go to for shows. So that's interesting. So the company that I used to do, we would kind of piggyback on other things, and so the National Association of Broadcasters, NAB, is a gigantic, like the movie industry, TV industry. There was a lot of YouTubers there this year in Vegas, and for a number of years, there was a small subset at National Association of Broadcasters called Technologies for Worship. And so it had a lot of church technology that was growing, projectors, software to help manage services, and there's just anything and everything that you could imagine, technology that was towards worship, houses of worship and sound systems and things like that. And it was basically piggybacking off of NAB because it made sense for people to go. And so maybe to start it out, George, it has to piggyback off of one of those, big toy fairs like the New York Toy Show, and then have the slot car show as part of that. So then those toys are already there, a part of that show. So you might, I don't know, maybe it doesn't work, but maybe it could. DK Moon question, McFly, if you could go back in time, what cars would you no longer buy, and any cars you didn't get that you would? Well, if I went back in time, great soundtrack to Back to the Future, by the way, right? Let me make sure I didn't miss any other questions because it skipped ahead pretty good. Yeah, I don't know. So there's not a slot car that I regret buying. Maybe my Ninko BMW V12, because I love the look of that car, and that car just it does not run great. I've done a ton of work to it. It's still not. Sorry, didn't mean to yawn. It's still noisy. Oh my gosh, it runs halfway decent, but it's just super noisy. And I like a smooth, quiet car. So that would be the closest thing to regret of any slot car that I've purchased. No, I'm super picky about what I buy. I don't just buy anything. I buy cars that I really, really like. And I'm looking at the shelf over here. I really don't see anything that I would say that I regret. Now, are there some cars that I missed on that I wish that I would not have missed on? Yes, I've passed on all of the slotted Ferraris, the 512s. And I love the 512. But every time I went to buy one, there was something that I wanted more. And so I'm not the type of guy that will drop, a bunch of money on 5 or 6 slot cars at a time. I just don't do that. So I missed on the 512s. I know the yellow one's out with the green. I could still pick that one up. Trying to think what else that I feel like I missed on. Um, I may have missed on this last batch of Thunder slots because I did not pick up one of those, and I love me some Thunder slots. But um, I've been building my GT class of cars, and it's a class that I didn't really love, but I've really kind of gotten into here as of late. And so I have to make choices. So that's kind of where I'm at. So hopefully that answers your question. Dogtown slots. Does anyone have any good tutorials on weight placement in cars? Dogtown, there is Cleve Tech has a video about weight that's really, really good. Honestly, weight placement, there's kind of a rule of thumb, kind of a 60-40 rear weight bias, 60% to the rear, 40%. There's some different ways to measure that. I've got a little setup with my scale that I can weigh half the car, and get an idea of what the ratio is, and try to be in that. Gosh, sorry guys, that 60-40 range. And then from a placement standpoint, I always start as close to the motor that I can get, and then testing, like move it around. That's why the tungsten putty is really handy at first, to figure out how much weight you need and where to put the weight. And then typically what I do is, once I get a car running really good with the tungsten putty that I like it, I pull the putty out and weigh it to get an idea of how much, obviously weight. And if I can put lead in its place, then I do that. And so I feel like that's, that's kind of my route. I'm sure there are lots of other ways to do that with weight distribution. Bud slots, Greg Kessler is usually in the chat. He's really good about weight distribution and has some theories about chassis roll and body roll, and sometimes you need to put the weight up higher than you think, depending on what the car is doing. I haven't been able to really get good at that yet. I always try to put the weight as low as possible just to get the center of gravity. But sometimes adding weight high in the body or on top of the motor or is where the car will like that weight. If it's helping with body float or something like that. So there's lots of theories out there. Steve Holzman's another one. He plays a lot with weight. Jamie, that is in the chat, Bender, he plays with a lot of weight. He'll just add 1 gram at a time until the car stops performing and then kind of backs up to where it performed the best. He's put a ton of weight in a car that I just thought was way too much weight, and then goes out and wins with it. So he knows what he's doing when it comes to weight and weight placement. And so, but I would say, he tunes to his driving style. So I don't know that I could drive his car the same way. But that's my tilt towards that, if that helps. Dogtown. Gerber, I race digital, but I had a question on analog. Does everyone wire their track with the same polarity? Okay. I just had a conversation this weekend about that with Daniel. I haven't seen him in the chat yet, but so the standard, if you want to call it that, a digital track is negative polarity. Carrera is a negative polarity. Analog in the States, and I mean pretty much everywhere, I think, is positive polarity. And that's just based on, which rail is positive. And so that's why if you throw a digital car on an analog track, as soon as you it'll fire off backwards, and vice versa. If you flip a track over to digital and have an analog car, it'll fire off at full blast and backwards. So that's the polarity. So that's the cool thing about the tech slot box that Joseph built, and Alex with the axle box in the Ultra 4 that I'm using on my track, is the box itself takes care of the polarity switch, which makes it really, really nice. So you protect your CU, and that's important. But that box protects your CU, and when you flip the switch, it switches the polarity for you. Gerbera, hopefully that answers your question. But I think that's 95% of the tracks out there are wired that way. I don't know. Maybe there's some reason to run negative polarity on an analog track, but I think that would mess with controllers and cars going the wrong direction and stuff like that. What else do we have? I got behind again. Dojo, we definitely need a show here like this. It would be fun. One, it would be a place for people to gather, right? And I think that was kind of the cool thing that, I guess the show itself would have been fun, just to see all the cars and have the opportunity to pick up some cars, maybe find some that you've been searching for in your collection that they're hard to find, but maybe at the show like that they show up, and maybe you might pay a premium for them, but the convenience of being at the show is great. Maybe you can get good deals at the show, but I think for me it'd have been getting to meet a bunch of people that hang out in the live chat, or that I watch on YouTube, other YouTubers, other channels, guys that I've become friends with that we just never had a chance to meet up. The dogs have entered the chat. So I think that part of having some kind of gathering like a slot festival is getting to meet up with people like all of you guys. You guys make the trip there, and all of a sudden I'm not talking to you across this camera. I'm talking to you face to face, and we finally get a chance to meet up and have a real conversation. Not that this conversation isn't real, but John Albright and I always talk about one day we're going to get a chance to run some laps together and share tuning things and drive some of his cars, and he drives some of my cars, and then we talk about how maybe we can make them better, and that would be a blast, right? And so maybe at a slot festival you'd have the opportunity, if there were some tracks set up, to have that kind of time with people, and that would be fun. That would be a lot of fun. I have a pre-order in for that McFly limited edition. It's probably a Maverick. Hey, collection, welcome. Glad you're back tonight. So let me see if I've missed any other questions, because I kind of went forward and went back. B2, important news. I created my slot car YouTube logo. Just not sure how to add animal cookies to it. B2, animal cookies, they would have to be a part of it. But based on your present logo, it's kind of cool that we're going to get from MR Slot Car, we're going to get that Corvette, the C1. So that was one of the things I wanted to talk about, is the MR Slot Car news. So we'll get to that in a minute. But let's see here. What else do we have? Local model and slot car show here this Saturday, $15 donation to get in. That's cool. I would drop $10 or $15 to go in the slot car show. It takes a lot. It's expensive to put those shows on. Convention space is not cheap. Somebody's got to pay for that, and so there's got to be a way for people to pay for that. So hopefully that it's a good local show. And I think that's what we have a lot in. I mean, when you watch Dave Kennedy's news on Fridays, I mean, how many, I mean, a minute and a half of, just a slideshow of all kinds of, events. That's pretty cool. I'm getting closer to announcing what we're planning to do this summer. Thought we had a date picked out. I might have a wedding that day, so I don't know. So we're still working on it, but I'm hoping that locally that becomes maybe a thing each year, that we set up a track. Maybe a couple of vendors might show up to have some things for people to buy and sell and trade. I don't know. I don't know what it looks like, but we got to start with something, right? So this year we're just going to try to have a race day this summer, but who knows what it might turn into. It is called scratch building. There you go. Michael Squire, George, I missed it too, was out, but watched some. No non-race C8 for me either. Pre-ordered a yellow number 3. Yeah, I know that there's some people, we can talk about the C8 a little bit too. And there's some people that don't like the plain liveries, the test liveries. We know why they did it. I mean, it's really, they were trying to get some cars out quick. There's no licensing. But I know that most people would rather have a car that's got a livery on it. I just wanted to get one in my hands just to talk about it on the channel. The car keeps getting quicker. It's running 5.2s pretty easily. The one thing is I've got to get either an NSR wood guide. These regular NSR guides are horrible on Carrera track. Sorry, NSR. I don't even know what track that would work well on. I guess maybe Scaly. It has a pretty shallow, but I get it that people want liveries. They're coming in June, so soon enough. Let's see here. Slot Scale Auto's new chassis tech is a wonder all on its own. They were showing prototype lane changers too. That's cool that they would consider creating digital for their track. I mean, we can say it. Digital is probably the future of the growth of the hobby and industry. As a company, you got to figure out how to keep people coming back for more. And so that's why there's always new cars, right? But from a track system, I haven't bought anything for my track in probably a year, unless I'm changing it. And then I need to, if I end up changing the layout, I'll probably end up having to order some track. But outside of that, developing digital is probably a smart thing for Scale Auto, since they're all in, if you look at their catalog, for lots of things. So crazy. MR Slot Car C1 Vet is on my list. Dojo, yeah, that's, we can touch on that next. Hey, DJ Patrick, welcome. Glad you're here. Is there a universal layout that can be built by anyone and time compared? So collection, this is a good time. I don't know if Pete or Joe are in here. That will Joe will be doing the Global Racing League, the GRL, and that's what the GRL is they post a track setup, and then you basically live stream running laps on it, and they compare the times. So there are some things out there. So, but is there a universal layout? Not really. We've talked about that before. There might be some universal layouts in commercial wood tracks here in the States because American built all those Blue Kings and all of those tracks are similar. So there are some standards, but universal, I would say there's universal. The test body of the MR Slot Car C1 looks beautiful. Based on the pictures, I would agree with that, Dave. Robert Hewitt, welcome. Glad you're here. Jim, you hated going to NAB. NAB is a monster. And it's a long show. It's 3 days of craziness, and it's lots of walking, and it's a big show. So Jim, I loved it because you got a chance to see me being an Ohio guy. You got a chance to see things that you didn't normally get to see when it came to video production, lighting, studio stuff. There was just anything and everything that you wanted in the industry at that show. So, but I can see people hating to go to that show because if you work in the industry, you're probably required to go. There's so much networking that happens at that show, I imagine. So, Dojo, it does slot R. I'm looking forward to it. Speaking of chassis, can't wait to see what MR Slot Car comes up with the new 132nd metal units. Okay, so let's go back to Dave's. Dave talked about the chassis from Scale Auto. And this car, this is my only Scale Auto car. And I can tell you this chassis is pretty amazing. There's a lot of tech in it, a lot of thought, and a lot of adjustment. I mean, there's some float adjustment that you can create by using set screws. There's all kinds of cutouts to keep the chassis light. I mean, they really have taken their time and really designed a really good car. And so, like, this is cool. So Scale Auto's like definitely stepping up their game. And so I guess, is it the R chassis or the RS chassis is the one that you should get? Somebody help me with that. That's the only Scale Auto car that I have. And every time I look at ordering another one, NSR or Thunderslot or a bunch of flies show up at my house. So I would agree with Dave that they're really doing a great job of creating a very fast car because they really focused on their chassis. Okay, so moving on to the next one, the C1. So MR Slot Car. So we were talking about the C1. And I was talking to John Albright today about this. I think that this is a brilliant move from Ernie and MR Slot Cars. Now, Ernie is not in this. He'll never hear this. But I think it's brilliant what he's doing. He's sort of cherry-picking what he knows will be successful. He sort of nailed it with the Shadow. I mean, the Shadow got tons of hype. It was every 3 months during its production or when they were designing it and working on it, somebody was putting out some kind of update. And so for a year and a half, we heard about how the Shadow was coming, that they were working on it. And so of any slot car since I've been in the hobby, no other slot car got the hype that the Shadow received. Even the Datsun 510, as much hype as Revo has gotten over that and Slotted's about theirs, it doesn't compare to the Shadow, I don't think. I think that is a great thing from Ernie. So it's like, listen to the people, listen to the community, dig in and find out what people really want. And, it was obvious that people wanted those JDM cars. It was obvious that people wanted the Group 2 cars. And so Revo listened to the community and they made the Datsun 510 happen. They made the Group 2 cars happen. And they're wildly successful. I think that what Ernie's doing is, okay, there have been some companies that have done the C1 Corvette. You can probably find a Carrera C1 Corvette. You can probably find a Monogram. I don't know. Like I said, I'm not a huge Corvette guy, but I do like those original Corvettes. So there are some companies out there that have done those before. And, they're probably hard to find now, and they probably go for good money. And there are people out there probably saying, why would they release a C1 Corvette? And the reason why MR Slot Car will release a C1 Corvette is because it will sell out immediately. And here's why. This is my take. People will love the C1 Corvette, but they will love it because MR Slot Car built it. Because if it runs anything like the Shadow, it's going to be fantastic. It's going to be a great running car. So then now I would have a C1 Corvette that I could put on the track and run in the Le Mans class or the Can-Am class or the vintage class, I guess, is really the better. That could be competitive. And some of those other companies have put a C1 Corvette out there, but there's no way that those are competing in that vintage class. It's not going to happen. But the fact that MR Slot Car is building one, now it becomes a legitimate racer in a body style that people love, and it will sell out, and it will sell out fast. So when they pre-order, just like the Shadow, I'm sure they will make a bunch of them, and they will probably still all sell. So for Ernie to do that, I think that's why I think it's a brilliant move. Listen to what the community wants and build a car that is built like the modern slot car that will compete with the NSRs, that will compete with the Thunder Slots, that will compete with the Slottits, that will compete with the Scale Autos, that you can throw it out there, the Revo Slots, and in class, it will be a fast, competitive car. So I'll just throw this out. Lots of other companies have built the Cobra. The AC Cobra is one of my favorite cars of all time. DNA asked me the question today, and I haven't answered him, but like, what are your favorite cars? A 1-to-1 car or a slot car that you would want? And a Shelby Cobra has been on my want list my entire life. And if a company like Thunderslot built a Cobra, I would buy it. If NSR built a Cobra, I would buy it. Even though I can go out and find an MRRC, I can find a Monogram, I can find a Carrera, I can look hard and find companies. Skelectric just released a couple of Cobras. They didn't tempt me, and I hate that, but I was not tempted by it. But I tell you, if Thunderslot made one, I would pre-order that darn thing, just like I pre-ordered their Ferrari that they just, they're getting ready to release. I pre-ordered that thing because I didn't want to miss out on that. So I think that if the companies listen to the community, they know they can learn what to build. And that's why it's brilliant what Ernie's doing. Okay, that's my rant about that. It's not really a rant. It's just my opinion. But I think, and then let's go to the last point that John Albright brings up is, speaking of chassis, can't wait to see what MR Slot Car comes up with for the new 132nd metal units. And how we know that is in the picture that they posted of the Ferrari. At the bottom of the picture, it says metal chassis. Now, I heard a rumor about that Ernie was developing a metal chassis to compete with Revo Slot. I'm adding that to compete with Revo Slot. But that style of chassis, I mean, Ernie already builds like flexi type chassis, right? So Ernie already understands what it takes to build a great metal chassis. He's already good at that, right? But to a 1/32nd scale chassis for this type of car, that's different. But is it really different? No, he has the know-how. He understands how chassis work. So the fact that he's going to jump into that style of chassis in a 1/32nd scale car, that's really a great thing for the hobby. I mean, we all know the popularity of Revo Slots over the last couple of years have just skyrocketed, right? And are they the fastest car on the track? No, but they're so much fun to drive, and they're so competitive in class with each other. So from model to model, it really depends on the track. I mean, Jim, Rose, you were talking about how the Marcos are the faster cars on some of the tracks out there. And in here, it's the CLKs, or it's the new Toyota GT1s, or it's every week it seemed like it was a different model Revo slot that was winning at the club in Cincy Slots. And so does this just gives us another option for that style of chassis. And what do we know about those chassis, those metal chassis, is they can take a beating. You're not going to wear them out. You're going to wear the motor out before you wear the chassis out. You're not going to break the chassis. It's probably not going to be warped. I think there are lots of advantages of the metal chassis. Now, ultimately, will they be a heavier car? Yes. Will they be as fast as a Thunder Slaughter NSR? Probably not. But on my track, the Revo slots are 2/10 off of what, my GT1 runs 5.1s. That's right there. That's faster than my GT cars and my NSR GT cars. That's terrific. So is this important to the hobby? Yes. It's awesome that Ernie's doing this. I would love to get him on here to talk one night. But I don't know him well enough to make that happen. But Massimo and Raul do. And there are other people out there that do. So it would be really cool to hear Ernie talk about the future of MR Slot Car and the plans that he has. That's pretty exciting. Wow. I went on. My apologies. Anything else? John says, will it be the Revo slot killer? I don't think it will kill the Revo slot. I think it will compete with the Revo slot, and that will give people options. But more than likely, they're not going to be making the same types of cars that Revo slot does. Revo slot, when I look at, they make a bunch of GT cars, right? They've got the Ferrari 333, which is kind of out there all alone. They have the GT1 Toyotas, but they're not making like vintage Can-Am type of cars. This Ferrari is an old Ferrari that we know that the metal chassis is coming on. So I think that it's just opening up a whole nother window of opportunity for we who love slot cars to get into something a little different. I think that's the thing. So I think it will complement the Revo slot. I will not say that it's a Revo slot killer. Now, they're talking about this being the Mosler killer, but that's in brand. That's NSR creating a car that's faster than the car that has been their fastest car for years, right? I can tell you that I haven't beaten my Mosler with the Corvette yet, but that's my hope, is that I can get it tuned up well enough. So how do you put flux capacitor in a fly car? Danny, that's a really good question. I'll let you know after I get it running, but I think I'm decided I'm going to go the Mr. Fusion route instead of the flux capacitor. I know that flux capacitor is what allows for time travel, but we really have to, bottling that lightning is a tough thing. Can you design scale auto tracks and softies? Steve, sorry, it's taken me a long time to get to this. No. The only thing you can design in softy is Carrera. I would love to reach out to the people who designed softy and ask them to expand the library to Polycar and Scale Auto. Mainly because it's a great program to use. Now, I know that there's a railroad modeler program that will do Polycar, but I think I've got to drop $50 or $60 on the app. And I like working in the browser. It doesn't bother me. But at this point, no, it does not. Let's see. NAB was probably $1 million show for us, 60 plus people. Whew. Jim, that was crazy. And Jim, who did you work for? I went to NAB for like 10 straight years. I wonder if we ever bumped into each other. I don't know. There's so many people there. Probably not. Come on, Marty, show us your McFlies. Question. Can you design scale auto tracks and softy? Okay, I gotcha. Yeah, I think the C1's going to be Yeah, Tad, I'm running out of shelf. Tad, you're right. I am running out of shelf. I think I need to order some of Kevin's Racetrack Scenic things I can hang on the wall. So maybe I'll order a couple of those. Don't have hardly any pre-1964 road racing cars, but the MR Vet and some of the others they were showing might change that. Yeah, Slot Journal, I agree. I don't have those older cars either. George, do you really want a 512M? Well, that was just one of the cars. I was trying to come up with cars that I missed on, that I didn't end up buying, that ended up being really good cars. I've driven Daryl's red 512 and the Sunoco. John Mark has a Sunoco here. So it's not like I don't have access to one. No, I'll pick one up at some point. The right livery will get released. We know that Slot, it's not done with those. So I'm not worried about it. The red one, the red one is available at Slot Car Corner. I do check back every once in a while to see what they have. That's cool. Thanks. Pre-64 sport cars will be a nice addition to the hobby. I know that they have been done, but not recently with good chassis. So, Michael, that's kind of the point I was making, right? Was like, if MR Slot Car builds a C1 Corvette, that's going to be a popular car because we know how well it's going to run. He's not going to throw a car out there. Ernie's not going to invest the time in it. And I know we give fly cars a hard time, and I have a soft spot for them. They're fun. They look fantastic, but they don't run great. You have to really work on them, right, to make them run. Well, it would be cool that all those types of cars now that are available for you to get are those types of cars that they look great, but man, you really got to make them run. You really got to invest some time and energy and money into making them run. You have to do a 3D chassis. You have to do, it would be cool to be able to buy one that is going to be a runner right out of the box with some basic tuning and be a competitive car. I think that's going to be the difference. And so I think that if some of these companies approach it that way and say, okay, what are some of the great cars that people love, that people would still want, and how do we modernize the running gear, the chassis, and then create a great mold and pump out some really great cars, and that a whole new generation of hobbyists have an opportunity to get, right? Without, dropping $250 from a retailer who, has a big collection. Yeah, Harry, no problem. Happy to share that. Let's see. I have an extra Sunoco one new in the box unwrapped. Yeah, don't do it, George. Don't do it. Agreed. Tungsten punny is a great learning tool. It really does help you be able to move the weight around. Man, I'm just realizing how far behind I am in the chat. Was an extra I ordered on accident along with the Ken Miles GT40. Hey, that Ken Miles GT40, that's going to be a collector one. Keep hold on to that. It's a good car. It runs good too. The slotted GT40s are a great running car. Curvy Road just picked up a bunch of used cars and some new front tires. Stock front tires. Advice needed. Everyone talks about rears. So for me, front tires, I'm usually truing those things down as low as I can do and get them, so I can get the front ends adjusted on some of the cars that don't have adjustable axles. Just get them trued. You want zero grip stuff, so that's the only advice I have on front tires is either coat them with floor polish, coat them with fingernail polish, coat them with super glue, get them trued so that they're round. But you can really use just about anything on the fronts. You just want less grip. I ordered all these by accident. That's good. Ordered on accident. I'll have to try that excuse with my wife the next time. Weight placing is in the tuning and watching the car react. So it is a process when you run the car on different tracks. Yeah, and it changes. I mean, I set up a car on my track. George, we've talked about this a million times, that you have to tune for the track, and a little bit of your driving style. I'm going to add that caveat because I tend to drive a car a little different than maybe my brother does or John Mark does or anybody else does. And so there are things that I like a car to react and do that maybe somebody else doesn't. And John Albright always teases me that I like my cars to be loose. They're slow. That's what it is. I did do a video on a little with a sideways Moby Dick Porsche. Yeah, you did, George. That actually is a really good video on placing weight. I've blamed all of you at one time or another. Slaughter. I don't feel as bad when I pre-order because it's not coming now. It's sometime. I have no idea when. Chris. Yeah, pre-ordering can get you in trouble, especially the month that I pre-ordered 3 cars and they all shipped in the same week. I also get a twitch in my mouse click finger when I'm browsing Pendle website to add things to end up in my cart and paid for. It's very strange. Yes, it is. Bob, I make front tires for a number of cars if you need replacements. And Bob's urethanes, man, they're good stuff. And so that's like, if you're looking for front tires, I would definitely, like, we use silicone rears, but I would definitely use urethane on the front because they're super easy to true. And Bob's tires come, like, those tires, I didn't need to true them. They were good. Yeah, they were actually really, really good. Let's see here. What else do we have? Heck, Greg wants to know, Slaughter, how many did you bring home from the show? I just need to be sure when I pre-order that when the cars finally come in, there's money in my slot car account to cover them. John Albright, I tuned my fronts, but I picked up a bunch of used Carrera cars and they suffer the dreaded Carrera tire melt. Yeah. I would look at what Bob's got, because he's made a ton of different tires, a lot for Carrera. So maybe Chris Freder, and yes, Roast Coffee. That's right. Don't forget about our friends at Roast. Revo Slot NSR are crack for me. Nobody's Home. Yeah, those, you can't go wrong with those brands. I'm telling you, they really make a quality car. This last week when I was talking about the C8 Corvette, NSR surprised me by having all 4 set screws in the front of the car already installed, and actually sort of the front end set up really, really close. I did about a half a turn to raise the front axle, but I was surprised that all 4 set screws were already in place. And so even Revo Slot, as good as those cars are, they had some room to improve on the delivery of their cars. And it looks like these later batches that they're sending out, they're taking a little more care in making sure that those cars are a little better out of the box, which I think is fantastic. B2, can't we just gather at your house? Yeah, we could. There's just not a lot of room for, I mean, as long as 5 or 6 guys are the only ones that show up, we'll be in good shape. Yes, that was Finn barking. Finn and Gus. You guys haven't met Gus, which is Finn's little brother from a different litter, same mom and dad. Yeah, so we ended up with another dog, and he's a puppy, and complete opposite of Finn. Finn doesn't know a stranger. Gus is scared of everything. So let's see here. I was forced to buy 2 by Rob Sale. He's bigger than me. Yeah, Finn was getting noisy. Marked safe from Slaughter's wife, 5,000 miles away. There you go. Hey, Anthony, welcome, man. Glad you guys are here. So I just got a text from DNA. Marty, you so far behind on the chat. We need to give you a time limit. Okay, I'm rolling through. If I don't see a question, I'm moving on. It was because of my rant, or my opinion on what MR slot car is doing. That's what put me behind. Does the NSR Wood Guide work on Carrera, Marty? Yes. Michael, I do like the NSR Wood Guide on Carrera. I like the Slot Invasion Guide better, if I'm being honest. There are some guys think it's a little too wide. I don't have a problem with it. I really like the Slot Invasion Guides. I just feel super confident with the car in the slot. But if I was going to go with an NSR guide, it's the Wood Guide for sure. Let's see. Wonder Woman livery. Test cars of that just for testing. Man, I am behind. You guys weren't lying. I use a Slot Invasion Guide. Yep. On some of my NSR cars. Yeah, it's great on NSR cars on Carrera track. Chris, you got Smart Race. I'll have to add some of those Slot Invasions to my next order. The C6 MSR still has the skinny stock guide. I don't change out the Revo slot guides. I do change to the Wood Guide, which is a little deep for Carrera track, but with a little sandpaper, you can fix that. Is there a catalog of wood track builders with email addresses? Lindsay, I don't think so. I don't think there's a lot of wood track builders out there. I did have a conversation with the guy that has Girding, and it looks like he is making tracks again. And he answers email, but that's Girding Tracks. Who else? Kevin at Racetrack Scenics is making wood tracks now. And so his email address is on the website. Hey, there's Joe. I did a plug, Joe, for the GRL earlier. Let's see. Question: is the stock Carrera guide just too small for their own track, or just wood tracks? What is the benefit of the aftermarket guide? Slot Journal. I will tell you that I love the Slot Invasion guide on Carrera cars. No, the Carrera guide's not awful. I mean, it's made for their track. The Slot Invasion guide fits better. It kind of takes any slop out of the guide on a Carrera car, and I feel like it rides the slot a little better. It fills the slot a little better. It's pretty smooth. And it's an easy change because they kind of snap in and snap out without having to mess with the braids. So, and I've got a car with Frankenslot guide too, and it's pretty good. But I do like the Slot Invasion a little better. And so that's the only thing I've ever used on my Carrera cars is Slot Invasion. Every Carrera car I own has a Slot Invasion guide. I just hope MR Slot Car releases two cars to run against each other rather than the Shadow, which has nothing to compete against. Well, so here's the thing. If you run a vintage class, there's all kinds of things to run the MR Slot Car in against. It runs against the GT40s. It runs against the Ferraris. It runs against the Porsches, the early 70s stuff. So there's plenty for it. It's just there's not another MR Slot Car. But it definitely qualifies for our vintage class. And I know Bernie ran his, Dusty ran his slot Shadow because they're really good and they compete really well in that class. they don't beat the Thunder Slots, but not much does. Everything seems to be chasing the Thunder Slot, in my opinion. See what else. I'm still. Hey, Raul. Thanks for joining. Sorry I'm late getting to you. I'm looking for questions now, guys, since I'm way behind. The way the car handles shows you the results. Not sure about the math and all of that. I missed the question. Ooh. Oh, let's see. What's up, Raul? Mark is down. Slot Journal and I are down the rabbit hole of figuring out why the aftermarket guides are the way they are, but also the math and science behind it. Gotcha. All right. I'm moving on. MRC1 will outclass Ninko, so unlikely to be included in our class of Ninko classics. Yeah, I mean, I think, John, that's probably going to compete in a different bracket. I think it runs in the vintage class with the Thunder Slots and the NSRs and the. I mean, I think that's where it's going to be. Is it just runs in that high end vintage class? Let's see here. Dusty wants a Cobra too. Scratch build, brother. I think that's going to be your only option. Scratch build. Let's see. What else do we have? Well, we're talking about looking for different slot cars. I would like to find a Lotus. I think they're pretty cool looking. Now, Anthony, MR Slot Car is rumored to be making a Lotus. This would be an 80s Lotus. Think Pretty Woman, what Richard Gere drives up in, or what you saw on the track in the 80s. That Lotus is a good-looking car. Thunder Slot C1 several. If Thunder Slot made a C1 to compete with, but they won't have to because MR Slot Car will be making one. But it's one of those things like if they made it, we'd probably buy it. Not probably, would. Let's see. There's a great looking MRCC Cobra about 2005, close to unusable with very fast front motor and shaft drive. Even Ninko overpowered their Cobra. The smart move for any manufacturer right now would be to make cars that run with Revo slots, not cars that run faster. Well, I mean, we always can make them run faster, right, Dave? I mean, that's the point in tuning. But I think it's a smart move from MR Slot Car to try the metal chassis. Yeah, the Carrera Cobras they do look really good. Brushless motor is the flux capacitor. That's funny. Yeah, MR. Yeah, it's not Mr. Slot Car. It's MR Slot Car. Oh, Jim, you worked for Canon. Okay. We may have met years ago. If you were working Canon's booth, I spent a lot of time in Canon's booth. I worked for a local access cable television channel that I started with a tech company, a telephone company that worked for that we owned a cable system, and we had a cable access channel that was running nothing, and me and a group of about 5 other people used our spare time and built a makeshift TV studio, and we did a live TV show each week, and then we'd cover local events and do live broadcasts, and we would use Canon XL1s back then because it was the only thing we knew. We didn't know any better, and we had such a limited budget that it was one of the best cameras we could get. We were not doing HD at the time. So if you had anything to do with the Canon XL1 or XL2, I probably did talk to you at NAB. Flashes of light and boom, then Marty's wife comes running down, seeing the basement a big mess. Yeah, the C1 running against, I think I already answered that question. I think it runs in the vintage class with all those other cars, the NSRs, because MR slot cars can. The Shadow does. So there's no reason why that C1 can't run in that class. I mean, you might have to change some of your rules because, there isn't a C1 now capable of running in that vintage class, in my mind. But if MR slot car does it, then it's probably going to be capable. What are the different styles of fly chassis? Oh, gosh. There's a lot of different styles. Slot car League of Champions. That's kind of a loaded question. I feel like every fly car I pick up has a little different chassis to it. They don't really have a motor pod per se. Most of them don't, but there are a few that have this pod that will slide, that the motor's mounted to, that kind of snaps out. Let's see here. DNA, this is my point. They didn't release another MR equivalent of the Shadow to run it against within brand. Yeah, I mean, and that's fair, but the Shadow is kind of a thing of its own, right? And there were already lots of other cars that the Shadow could run against that are not in brand. And who knows, we probably have something coming from MR slot car that is that counterpart. I think it was such an effort to get the Shadow released in production. It was happening during the pandemic, and, yeah, that's it. They've got a white kit coming out, so you can paint it however you want. That would compete against itself, I guess. I get what you're saying, Dine, but Dahi, that I think that, I don't know, it's expensive to build a slot car, and so requiring Ernie to build two that kind of run against each other just for the sake of having a running mate. Yeah. I mean, I don't know how big his company is. I feel like he's kind of like a 1 or 2 man shop. I may be wrong, but it would be interesting. I'm guessing that there's something coming. Let's see. What have I missed? Only pre-order I'm waiting on is the NSR Golf 917. Daryl says no new slot cars. Hey, Daryl. I said the exact same thing. No new slot cars. And then somebody said, Marty, you just got the C8R. I'm like, dang it, you're right. Nobody's home ordered the 917K. Yeah, that's the NSR 917Ks. Man, I am such a fan of that Porsche, the Porsche. It's a fun car, but that is one car that I haven't really touched. George was talking about his backlog of cars to tune. I have yet to tune this car. I've run some laps on it. It still has the original rubber tires. Haven't changed the silicone. Still has the original guide. I have not done anything to this car, mainly because it looks so stinking good. I don't want anything bad to happen to it. But I do have a backlog of 4, I guess. I've got the NSR GT40, the number 6 or the number 14 red. You can't see it. It's behind the logo. I've got a Datsun 510 that I have yet to. I've taken it out of the box to take a picture of it, but I've not touched it. It has not seen power. Neither has the GT40. This has seen power, but this needs tuned. That's 3. I feel like I've got one more car. Oh, I have another Revo slot that I haven't touched. Daryl picked up the special edition Mosler today. Is that with the yellow to orange fade? That's a good looking car, Daryl. I really like that. It's the 11th anniversary, because I think the one I have is the 10th, the black one. Yeah, that's a cool looking car. Just what you need, Daryl. Yeah, good choice, Kirby. Hey, Peter. Welcome, man. Hope you're doing well. Slot Car League of Champions. Does the style or year of a car depend on what kind of fly chassis? I think that here is a 917 Spider. That's kind of a parts car that I'm working on. It's going to become a 3D chassis car, if I can print a 3D chassis. And so this is a look at the chassis. This is very typical of the classic, the GB slot, the GB track cars. It's got that. It's not really a motor pod per se, but it's got that motor. We'll call it a pod for lack of a better term. But this is very typical of these classic type of cars. The 908s, the 917 Spiders. But then the Panos, those are all front engine, so those chassis are different. The M1s have a different chassis. Yeah, they are similar based on the style of car, but it's really hit or miss. We're watching Marty back in 1950s chat. That's right. Let's see, what else do we have? How do the new Polycar budget cars run, guys? I was thinking of buying some for visitor beginners or victims I can draw into my room. Harry, Slot R has a great video on the WRX, the new Polycar. They're inexpensive. And I think that they're probably perfect for what you want to do. It really is a great choice. Or you could get, for a handful of the same scaly car or the same Carrera car to do the exact same thing, but that Polycar is really inexpensive. I mean, it's like $25. It's under $30, I think. And so for that's probably perfect for what you're wanting to do. Yeah, Slot Journal. You're right. If it had a front engine, Fly usually puts the motor in the front. And those cars are hard to tune. Just put it out there. Question. Whatever happened to Grandson of Man? Grandson of Man is in the Vegas area, and he was on like 2 weeks ago, Steve. So I think he works, and it doesn't always, doesn't always make it. And again, it's summertime, or we're approaching summer, and I think there are some guys that slot cars are a winter hobby. So, cue cards. Any volunteers? Bob Scott makes tracks also, and builds them at your home. I knew there was one other. Thanks, George. I couldn't remember his name. Yeah, Joe, no problem, man. Somebody just asked if there was a universal track, and I'm like, well, there's not a universal track, but there's the GRL, which they basically put a post, the track out there, and people build that track, and then they can compete against each other because they're racing on the same track setup. And I think that's what they were after. So Johnny Pro, flies are not garbage. Flies have some of the best looking detailed bodies that you can find. Sometimes it just takes a little bit of work. I mean, I think we like to tease Fly about how bad their chassis are, but honestly, it's just that some of them, like every Fly car is a little different, and it's about tolerances, I think. They're not super worried about that. So you might pick one up and the front wheels are just super wobbly, so that you end up having to put a straight axle in it or do some kind of modification to straighten the front axle up. You have to they take a little bit more in tuning. I would not call them garbage. It's the brand of car that I have the most of. So I don't think they're garbage. I think they're great. It's just that you need to run them in class for sure, because I'm guessing you could probably run Fly and Ninko together. They probably perform similarly. But yeah, I wouldn't call them garbage. Guys, if I miss something, I apologize. I'm trying to get closer to the bottom so that what I'm talking about is current to what's being talked about in the C1 and the Shadow for the bin, mate. You meant entry Pala cars. Gotcha. I saw a pre-66 race at Silverstone today. Great cars. That's cool. Lotus is my favorite manufacturer. They make some cool cars for sure. BTV, Marty. That's right. BTV. Harry should start his own, the Bennies. That's funny. Still waiting my pre-ordered Z from BRM. I don't know when those start shipping. Let's see. Yeah, did you reach out to Alan? Anthony, you love the Shadow? Yes, the Shadow is a great car. It's funny how it resurrected tonight. Shadow is very competitive in NorCal Can-Am. Has a race victory over the Thunder Slots. Yeah, Jim. I think they are highly tunable. My brother has his is a lot faster than mine. He's got that thing tuned up really, really good. It's really quick and stays in the slot. That guide system that they built is really good, and for that car. So yeah, it's good to see that it's competitive everywhere. And see, I think that when they release the C1, I think it falls into that vintage class naturally. And if it's anything like the Shadow, then it will be very competitive too. Bob would love to see Riva Slot add a Ford Lotus Cortina to the Group 2 field. It wouldn't surprise me. I mean, I've not heard anything that they're looking at that, but I could see that. No shelf queens. Yep, the fingers. It happens. Get a new car. It happens. 22 would be nice if MR Can-Am car to run against the Shadow. Pretty well known, but not produced as a slot car yet. Yeah. Oh, the TI 22. Yeah, that would be cool. Another one, even though slotted just did it, the Chaparral would be very, very cool from another manufacturer to get in there. And guys seem to not be able to get the Chaparral to run as quick. But that would be a perfect running mate from MR Slot Car for the Shadow. You also bought the C8R and it's fast. Yes. Thanks, Daryl. I appreciate that. You sent me pics of the car you just bought. Cool. Oh, you probably sent it to my phone. Yeah, there is a black and red shadow. I feel like there was black with orange too, if I'm not mistaken. Oh yeah, Daryl. Yep, Daryl. That's a good looking Mosler. I like that livery. That will look great on the track. Yeah, yeah, DNA. There's just not a ton of different liveries. Most of the liveries were either black or white for the shadow, with not a lot of flash. Let's see, what else do we have? Yeah, Greg, I would, if you pre-ordered that, I would probably give Alan a call. I'm sure, hopefully, something didn't get mixed up. I know sometimes they're not in; they travel a little bit, and sometimes they're not in. And if you ordered it while they were out, it maybe they missed it. I know Dusty ordered a car and didn't he pre-ordered it, and for some reason the system didn't pick it up, and when he called, Alan sent it straight out to him immediately. Hey, grandson of man is here, washing dishes. There you go. Good to have you, man. Good to have you. Okay, what else do I have? Yeah, Harry, I like fly cars too. We like to just tease them, give them a hard time, but they're a lot of fun. Thanks, Peter. It's 9:26. How did this time go by so stinking fast? I'm almost to the bottom. Drink rose coffee and hit the like button. Thanks, Daryl. I appreciate that. I have no idea how many people were even tuned in this week. Looks like we got 81. Wow, that's amazing. I can't believe that happens from week to week. Yeah, anything Chaparral is cool in your book. Like it would be cool to see them. I mean, it would be. Here I am. I don't know the manufacturing process of a slot car, but to me, it seems like it would be an easy to take the Shadow chassis and form a Chaparral body for it. But that's just me. The Lotus Cortina was the only 4-cylinder Trans Am race winner. That's cool. Georgia Chaparral he's got one scratch built, I think, and then maybe it's probably the slotted. And DeFingers has an older SCX Chaparral. That's cool. Oh, yeah, George has a slotted. We are looking today, and the new Elva body seems lower than the old ones we compared it to. That's interesting. Those Elvas, they're fast. Were you hanging out at Bruce's? Oh, Daryl's in Dayton today. Yeah, thanks, grandson of man. Yes, from Shotgun, the vacuum one. Okay, I was gonna say, I thought you had one. That's the fan car. The history of that car is amazing. That Chaparral John Albright sent me, I think, a link to that, and then I ended up watching a long video on YouTube that Steve Holzman sent me that was incredible about the Can-Am series. And then Bernie said it was a DVD set that you could get, but the downforce that fan created, so that had two motors. It had a motor, an engine to propel the car, and then it had an engine to run the fans. And they basically used Lexan. That's why Lexan was a sponsor on some of those Chaparral cars. They used Lexan around the edge of the body so that it would create sort of a seal, and it was kind of opposite. It worked opposite of a hovercraft, how a hovercraft will create a cushion of air for the car for the hovercraft to ride on, the fans turned the opposite and basically sucked the car to the road. And that was pretty amazing tech at the time, which is why it got outlawed, because of just the ability to go through a turn where those fans were creating all that downforce. Yeah, it probably wasn't fair to some of the other cars. But yeah, John D., the Scirocco is a great-looking car from BRM. Bruce had one that he ended up selling, that I almost bought 2 or 3 times. Every time I looked at it in the case, it was gorgeous. I'm a fan of those cars. You just don't see them here in the States very often. I would like to see a Revo do a VW Golf Rabbit. Yeah, Chris, I'm with you. That would be fun. That would be a lot of fun. Yeah, Dusty says he needs to see if Bruce is getting the new STP Skyline sideways. That's a great-looking car. Waiting for Bruce to get the Pedro Rodriguez Polycar F1. Daryl, you're killing me with the Polycar F1s. You're going to be as bad as George. Yeah, DK Moon, a lot like magnets. That's right. They had that EV fan car at Goodwood. Yeah, they did. That was really, really cool. Slot Car Corner has them in stock. So I got a text from Bruce today. It's 9:30. It's about time to wrap up. Man, this conversation went fast. I don't know if we accomplished a darn thing, but I did catch up to the bottom, DNA, to this chat. But I'm going to throw this out there. You guys know that we support Cincy Slots. He's not a sponsor of the channel. Bruce doesn't do that, but he might as well be because we talk about him enough. He texted me earlier today, and he said that he picked up 500 plus cars in a collection. So over the next, I would say, couple of weeks, if you are interested in some cars that have probably been out of production for a while that you've been looking for, I would watch Bruce's website very closely to see if anything new pops up in the store. 500 car collection. That's a bunch of cars. And he hasn't said what all it was in the collection, but he did post a picture on Facebook of the van, and it looks like there was a box that was marked Carrera, and I really couldn't see anything else. And then I think he ended up getting some RC stuff too that I'll probably put on eBay. But he said that if he has time later, that he would put up a video talking about the collection. So just like the last few collections he's gotten, there have been some cars that guys have been looking for a long time that haven't been around. This is probably a good time to be on the lookout. So this is a shout out to Bruce. Thanks for sharing the news, Bruce. That's awesome that you got that 500 car collection. So go to CincySlots.com and see what he's got. Obviously nothing out there today, but it wouldn't surprise me over the next few days you start seeing some cars pop up, especially the highly collectible ones. He likes to get those out early because he knows people are always looking for them. And that's really cool. Really cool. So our friend from Barbados is back. Welcome. Good to have you. Thanks for joining again. I didn't think Daryl liked Polycar F1s too, but it sounds like he's got 2 so far and the collection is building. Bruce didn't tell me yesterday, so we are going to have to talk. Yeah, he posted something on Facebook about it. We watched your Christmas video. The wife isn't into slot cars, but she loves your stairs. Chris, thanks, man. Yeah, I love this old house. I'm not gonna lie. I feel pretty blessed. It's in great shape, and we try to take very good care of it. But it's an old old house, as you can tell by the basement walls. So tell your wife thanks. Hopefully the song wasn't too bad and my singing and guitar playing weren't too bad. Hey guys, uploaded a couple videos, hoping you'll check them out. Probably be ready in like an hour. Cool, Anthony. Hopefully it's shots of your layout so we can see what you've been working on, and that's cool. Yep, drop what your channel name is, if it's different than your actual name, so people can find it. It would be different if you, Anthony, you weren't an active player in the chat. But funny, I got a thumbs down. I've got 60 thumbs up and 1 thumbs down. My apologies to the person that didn't like the live stream tonight. Hey Dan, welcome. Thanks for tuning in, man. You're catching us right at the end. Caveman, hello, all been house hunting. Finally may have found one we like. Congratulations, Caveman. House hunting is difficult. It wears me out. It's a good thing we've only done it a couple times in my lifetime. But DJ Patrick, do you Swiffer the slot car track? Actually, yes. I use a combination. A lot of times we'll use just a little bit of Windex on a rag and wipe it down. If it's extra dirty, if not, I've got a thing that uses a Swiffer pad to clean it up. Those do a really good job. But being in this basement, it gets pretty dirty. Over three or 4 weeks. If I'm down here frequently and wipe it down all the time, it stays pretty clean for the most part. But yes, Swiffer does a great job. Let's see here. Thanks, Anthony. I appreciate that. Brandon, I don't know. There are people that get upset that I didn't run any cars tonight. That they think I'm boring by just being a talking head. But there are probably people that don't interact in the chat. Whoever was the thumbs down changed their mind. Thank you. Now I can sleep tonight. Not that a thumbs down is that it may have been an accident. Either that or they just unsubscribed to me. I'm a people pleaser. I apologize. I don't like to upset people. So I would love to talk to the person who, if it really was a thumbs down, I would love to have a conversation with you because I would really love the feedback because I want to make this channel what people want it to be. Because it's not about me. It's about this community and everybody involved, and that's what makes it so much fun. John, that's completely possible. And then I actually called them out on it. I wasn't trying to be a jerk. It just surprised me when I looked up and it went from 60 thumbs up to 60 thumbs up and 1 thumbs down. I was like, oh, that stands out like a sore thumb. But I'm done. Thanks, Harry. DNA, check our chat. Yeah, hang on. But I had an accident. Oh. Okay, so guys, the 240Zs are not out yet, but they will ship very soon. There was a delay when leaving Europe. Yeah, happy to mention that. Thanks, Dahi. Yeah, so Alan has had is kind of down for a few days, and if you would, he's important to this hobby. He's a great promoter of the hobby and really is a distributor for lots of things. If you could keep Alan in your thoughts, that would be great. But the 240Zs, they are not out yet and will ship very soon. So, and I'm sure that he will post like he did with the the Datsun 510s. He will keep us informed of when those are starting to ship. So those of you who have pre-ordered, that's what's up. So thanks, man. George, you're the best, man. You are the best. Hey, Daniel, welcome. You're late to the party. Baseball season is full swing for my boys, man. Hey, I get it. I'm a baseball fan too. I stayed up to watch the Cincinnati Reds blow a 1-run lead in the ninth in Arizona last night. It was 1 o'clock in the morning. It's up way too late. But yeah, man, thanks guys for tuning in tonight. It's 9:40. I went a little later than I planned. But great conversation, good stuff going on in the chat. If I missed something in the chat, because I kind of, to try to get to the bottom, I missed a bunch of things. I didn't see any questions, but if I missed something, hit me with an email, send me a message. I'd love to make sure that I get your questions answered. That's what's important about Tuesday nights for me, is making sure that when people have questions that we get them answered. And if I miss one, I'm so sorry. We'll make it happen. Just hit me with a message, guys. Just like, if you get a chance, I've been thinking about this. We talked a lot about the manufacturers tonight, MR Slot Car, NSR, Slotted, Maurizio. We talked about these guys, that they're really trying to do what's best for their businesses, but it really comes down to they're trying to do their best for the hobby. And I think it would be cool that, that reward these companies for going out and designing something and putting out a new car. And it's obvious that we already do that, but just, when MR Slot Car, when they put this C1 out, I'm sure it will sell like gangbusters, but it'd be great to keep supporting these companies that keep putting out these amazing products for us to get the most out of the hobby. It's great stuff. I can't wait to see what Revo Slot's got coming. Again, great cars. The C8Rs, the liveries are coming in June, so more of you guys will check this car out. It really is a great car. NSR really developed a really good car. I think once you get it tuned, it's going to be a rocket, and it's pretty exciting to see. So lots of great stuff coming to the hobby. Guys, thanks. Hopefully you enjoyed this tonight, and we'll catch up soon and get out there and go have fun racing.